And here's another real life story. We'll probably entitle this one My Utmost for His Highest, which is the title of a book by Oswald Chambers from about 100 years ago. When Debbie and I got divorced, 1996, we were officially divorced in the summer. And reluctantly, at the end of October of 95, I had moved out of the house, completely broken man, scared to death. And honestly, moving out of the house and being away from my children, and this was the first house I had ever owned in. It was in Asbury, New Jersey, a little Cape Cod. I had painted the whole house once. Started to scrape the south side so I could paint that side, because 5 years after I painted the whole house, that side was needing improvement. Eventually decided that there was no way I had the time to do the entire house, so I was going to get some prices on having the house painted. They were pretty steep, and I decided to look into having the house sided. And we had a excellent guy and his son who came and sided the entire house for maybe $400 or $500 than several of the paint estimates. It was fabulous. So a beautiful light gray. Eventually I had the roof replaced with a nice black roof all the way around. It really set off the gray wonderfully. Eventually had the driveway paved, and one of the first things I ever did was we moved in, and there was a fireplace in the living room that would have been sucking oil-heated air right out of our house during the winter. So the first thing I did was to buy a fireplace insert that could burn coal or wood. There were many, many times for several years where we heated the entire house with that fireplace insert. It was marvelous. It was centrally located in the living room. The downstairs was pretty open for the most part, and it worked well. So when Debbie didn't want to be married to me anymore, my life was shattered. I actually thought my life was over. I had continued to play music, mostly church-related music, although some coffee houses and solo performing. Russ, Laurie, and Tim, for about, 15, 16 months, we rehearsed, and we actually did one public concert, and that was it. And then the band was over. But we did some pretty good music at that time. When I got divorced, I thought my life was over. Eventually, I bought a townhouse in Easton, Pennsylvania, so I was only 20 minutes away from the kids and would be able to visit every Wednesday and every other weekend, and I could get to their school plays and their performances and their athletic activities. There was no way I wanted to be far away from my kids, but I was a pretty shattered man. And anyway, I was living, when I first moved out of the house, I moved into a house that I knew, a guy from Al-Anon. He was willing to have a roommate in White House Station. His name was Bob Hellriegel. And he allowed me to move in, and I was paying him some amount. I don't remember how much. But there were times when I was out in the backyard just walking up and down, smoking cigarettes and crying, literally crying, and crying out to God to do something with this life, somehow turn it around. It felt like my life was over. Eventually, I bought the townhouse in Easton, Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh. 2 weeks after I moved into Bob Hellriegel's house, I saw a notice on the table while I was having breakfast, and his house was in foreclosure. The sheriff's office might come at any time and put locks on the doors. That was a fearful time, and I'm sure my prayers increased dramatically. Within those first couple of weeks at Bob's house, a good buddy, Joe Feckety, gave me a call, and he was like, he knew how heartbroken I was. He was attempting to encourage me, and he said, how would you like to move into a fully furnished 4-bedroom colonial in upscale Clinton, New Jersey? And I told him, how would you like to take a running jump at the moon? I'm really not interested in jokes. And he said, I'm not joking. And I said, neither am I. The beginning of January of 1996, Joe and I moved into a fully furnished 4-bedroom colonial in upscale Clinton, New Jersey. This was a miracle. Joe knew a man by the name of Skip, who had made so much money as a consultant with AT&T that he had decided to move his family to Grand Cayman to avoid the taxes. He was only looking for one or two mature people who were not drinkers or partiers to live in his house and keep his investment safe. Joe and I lived there, I believe, for 9 months. That was a miracle. And we were each paying $300 a month. I don't believe that we were even covering Skip's real estate taxes. I don't think so. But that was a miracle. You can't make this stuff up. Eventually, I lived a couple of other places and eventually bought a town home in Easton, Pennsylvania, and started attending a church up on College Hill, very close to Lafayette College. And at Christmas time of 1997, I think it was, Christmas time of had to be 1997. This small choir at the church did such a good job. They were being led by the pastor's wife as the director, and they just sounded so good. And it was like, the next time they have any kind of musical offering, I'd like to participate in that. Well, the next musical offering was going to be a Lehigh Valley-wide arrangement of My Utmost for His Highest. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that's a book by Oswald Chambers. And this was a musical. This was many, many, many different contemporary and fairly popular worship songs. I went to the first organizational meeting. I just thought I'd be in the choir. I had no idea that the choir would be 200 people. I am not kidding. From 31 different churches. This was incredible. The first meeting, the organizational meeting, they played some of the music, and it really spoke to my heart. I just loved it. During an intermission, I felt compelled to sign up for a solo. There were people there who directed choirs. There were people there who have professional singing voices. There were people there with doctor degrees, PhDs in music. And I'm just a hacker. I'm just a player. But I felt compelled. Ultimately, they had the auditions. A week or so later, I had picked one particular song. Other people were vying for that same song. It would start out as a solo and then be joined by a female voice as a duet. And it was absolutely stunning. It was called A Man After God's Own Heart, written by Wayne Kirkpatrick and somebody else that I should know, and I just can't pull the name right now. Beautiful song, absolutely beautiful. I worked on it, and I did the audition, and ultimately, out of all these professional singers and directors of choirs throughout the Lehigh Valley, I got the solo position on that particular song, My Utmost for His Highest. It's on my recording, my CD, and on my CD, My youngest daughter, Laura, is singing harmony. She did the duet part. Gorgeous song. And God was so gracious. I felt like my life was over, but he was letting me know that I'm not done with you yet, son. You have more to do. Hang in there. It'll be okay. So that's my utmost for his highest. And it changed my life.